Hey guys, it's Destiny, and our newest dragon has just released, and he literally looks phenomenal. He looks so cool. I mean, look at his eyes, his dragon, his horns. I'm pretty sure the Dan Heng lovers are excited to say the least. I'll be going over Dan Heng IL's kit in depth, ways to play him, teams, builds, and much more in this complete guide of him. Without further ado, let's go over Daniel's beautiful flowers. I mean, just look at these things.
Imbibitor Lunae, successor of the Azure Dragon, commander of the clouds and the rain.
Dan Heng IL has quite an interesting kit with a bit of resemblance to our gacha within Gacha Gambler, as they both like to consume a lot of skill points. Like, quite a lot. IL has the ability to enhance his basic attack by 3 enhancements, each using a skill point, and also each enhancement will allow you to increase his damage potential and multipliers by quite a lot. Like, he goes from normal damage to Oonga Boonga damage. And also, his hits onto enemies will also increase with each enhancement. He'll be able to gain up to 4 stacks from his enhanced attacks Divine Spear, which is 5 hits, and Fulgurant Leap, which is 7 hits. By the way, that took me about 10 times to try to say that. I don't want to say it again throughout the entire video. And from 2 or 3 basic attack enhancements and these stacks, they will increase his crit damage by quite a lot depending on how much you level up his skill, which I highly recommend leveling this up, by the way. And these stacks remain until the end of the turn that he is attacking. So essentially, while he's attacking, he'll be gaining these stacks. And while he's gaining these stacks, you may notice that his damage may be going up as a result. So it definitely may go unnoticed, but just know that he's secretly buffing himself while he's attacking. He can also gain stacks from Righteous Heart, which can be a maximum of 6 stacks, and he gains damage per stack, which can be quite a lot as well. For example, let's say he had the level 8 talent, and with level 8 you get a 8.7% damage increase, which can be stacked up to 6 times. So a total of a 52% damage increase, which is kind of insane how much he can self-buff himself, because IL decided to go from a normal Saiyan as Dan Heng to literally Super Saiyan 3 as Dan Heng IL with all his self-buffs. To make it even better, he has ways to help with the skill points consumption to 3-stack majority of the time for his basic attacks, which is usage of his ultimate. His ultimate deals damage to enemies, which will also grant him, I don't know how to say this, so we're just gonna call them charges since that's essentially what they are. He gets 2 charges from his ultimate, and each charge is able to be used in place of a skill point. Now to 3-stack, you can use 2 of these charges in a single skill point, and he can also hold 3 of these charges as well, so that can be a consideration for how to go about your skill point usage when using this character. This technique can also grant him his charge at the beginning of a battle, which is definitely useful to have, and he gets to leap around the screen, which I think is easily 10 out of 10 gameplay. As for traces, they help him even more, as they grant him 15 energy at the start of battle, which helps to make smoother rotations and ultimate usage earlier in the beginning of battle. And his other traces allow him to resist crowd control debuffs by 35%, and also the cherry on top is that he can increase his crit damage by 24% against enemies that are weak to imaginary, which can make a certain Stellaron Hunter an awesome sidekick. As for his sub-traces, he can get 12% crit rate and also 22% imaginary damage, which makes him even stronger. Overall, his base kit is honestly super strong, like very, very strong. But you can't have a proper battle without good teammates, unless of course, I guess you E6 everything. I've literally seen a Blade at E6 solo MOC 10. With the assumption you don't E6 Daniel here, let's go over how to play him with other teammates.
Imbibitor Lunae, successor of the Azure Dragon, commander of the clouds and the rain.
Since Daniel wants to use a bunch of your skill points at most times for the maximum of 3 stacks, you'll want SP positive characters to help with this. What I mean by SP positive is characters that can normal attack quite often rather than needing to use their skill very often. Some amazing options can be Pela, Silverwolf, Japar, Locha, and so on. For sustained purposes, I definitely recommend Japar and Locha the most, but if you don't have either, Natasha can work as a free-to-play option with the assumption you use a lot of her basic attacks. As for debuffers, Pela and Silverwolf can be awesome for reducing defenses and allowing Daniel to literally nuke the enemy, as you can stack both of these characters on one team as well and continuously decrease the defense of an enemy, and he can highly take advantage of this as well. Then I'd recommend a buffer, which can be Asta, Tingyun, Yukong, or Bronya. I've found all of these characters to actually be successful due to what they provide. Asta provides speed and attack, Yukong is a bit more skill point hungry, but she is able to provide massive buffs with imaginary damage with one of her traces to allies, crit rate, crit damage, and attack. And she can work with IL if you bring along 2 skill point positive characters. Tingyun is incredible for being skill point positive and being able to get back IL's energy pretty consistently for ultimates, increases damage, and so on. Lastly, we have Bronya. I know a lot of you may doubt Bronya due to her skill point hungry nature. What if I told you there's a way to actually make her one of the best partners for him? Bronya and IL have a certain rotation that allows for a 2-turn ultimate and also immense damage potential. And when I say 2-turn ultimate, even without his signature light cone, you'll be able to do this. The rotation will ideally want IL to go before Bronya. What you want to do is IL uses a basic attack, not an enhanced attack at all, just a normal basic attack. And then you do Bronya E on him, so now your skill point's neutral. And with your remaining skill points, preferably 3, use your maximum stacks. Then if they're both at 134 speed or above and you go again in the cycle, you'll be able to go again at the end of the cycle, let's assume it's cycle 1. You'll be able to go at the end as we know with 134 speed. And then do the rotation which allows IL to get his ultimate, and in the following rotation he will use less skill points to use his maximum of 3 stacks. This rotation has been known to also work with Blade, where it'll be Blade, he'll skill, then he normal attacks and Bronya goes right after him, Bronya E's, then he attacks again, and they go at the end. So you're basically getting a bunch of attacks in just cycle 1. And this can be used whenever cycles they both go as well. Or if they only go once in a certain cycle, then you could still take advantage of this. And overall, this rotation is just super strong and it definitely helps with his energy issues. And I found this to be successful once again without his signature light cone. Of a sum up of how you'll want to play Dan Heng IL, you want him to be able to use max stacks as much as possible for nuking the enemies, and you want your teammates to be relatively skill point positive with the exception of whatever buffer you're using. I think the fact that he can work with multiple teammates, especially practically all of our buffers, is quite strong and allows for people who do not have as many characters, which could possibly be free-to-play players or players who are kind of unfortunate when it comes to summoning, to take advantage of this to still ensure that their IL is super powerful. Now that we've gone over his kit though and how to play him alongside team recommendations, let's go over how to build him to make him the best dragon he can be.
Imbibitor Lunae, successor of the Azure Dragon, commander of the clouds and the rain.
Now let's go over Imagine Dragon's best build. I totally didn't steal Imagine Dragon from EO, totally made that up on my own. You will benefit most from sets that can enhance his crit rate, crit damage, imaginary damage, and basic attack damage, which for relic sets leaves the options of Wastelander or the Musketeer set, or even a mix of them. Wastelander will be able to increase your imaginary damage as well as your crit rate and crit damage, assuming the enemy is debuffed, which Pela or Silverwolf can pull this off, or any other debuffer. And also imprisoning them, which can be pulled off by weakness breaking the enemies, or possibly having more imaginary characters on your team, which can be Welt if you can manage the skill points consumption, Locha of course, and Yukon. For easier farming, I'd recommend the Musketeer set since it's more universal and can work on majority of characters. But both of these sets, whether it's the 4-piece or mixing them, will definitely be beneficial for his damage output. As for planar sets, if you have enough crit rate from his traces, possibly light cone options, relics, and so on, I'd recommend the Rutilant set the most in order to make your enhanced basic attacks even beefier and stronger against whatever you're fighting. Other alternatives can be the Inert set for ultimate damage being stronger or the Space set for more attack. The Rutilant set though will definitely be the best due to what you're gaining, as your basic attacks are your main form of really big damage, so I'd highly recommend going for Rutilant and attempting to get 70% crit rate on him or more, since it'll benefit him when it comes to increasing his basic attack damage and allowing him to crit more often, as each hit he inflicts can crit, depending on how many enhancements of course you do with his skill. So if you maximum stack, you have 7 hits that can possibly crit. Getting all of them to crit, or at least majority of them, will definitely be in your favor for doing quite a lot of damage with this character. When it comes to what stats to prioritize, I'd say to go for crit rate, crit damage, speed if you want him to go 2 times in some turn cycles, and attack. For boots, you'll want attack or speed. For body piece, you'll want crit damage if you have enough crit rate. But if not, go for crit rate. I would definitely try to get enough crit rate within subs, his traces, maybe light cone, and so on, just so you can take advantage of that crit damage body piece, since it will increase your damage by quite a lot. And you'll also want to crit as much as possible as well. For sphere, go for imaginary, and for rope, go for either energy regeneration or attack. Energy regeneration will help with more energy, but with Ting Yun or the Bronya rotation I mentioned previously, you can get away with using an attack rope more, and I've personally been using an attack rope, but energy regeneration is good as well. Now for light cones, the best options I can recommend is a signature light cone, as the art is amazing. I mean, look at it. And of course, the crit rate, which makes Lunae easier to activate, more energy regeneration for smoother ultimate usage depending on who you're using with him, and also more attack as well, since you'll be able to get 18% crit rate, 36% attack, and 12% energy regeneration when you have all these stacks of Dragon's Call, which will definitely be easy to get within battle when using him. As for the alternative, I recommend On the Fall of an Aeon, as it is a free-to-play light cone you can get superimposed 5, so this option is definitely amazing for those who aren't able to get his light cone, and it can grant a 64% increase and 24% damage increase if you weakness break the enemies at S5, which can be amazing for furthering his damage potential. Now that we've gone over how to build Imagine Dragon, let's go over his Eidolons and my personal thoughts on him.
Imbibitor Lunae, successor of the Azure Dragon, commander of the clouds and the rain.
IL's Eidolons are very, very strong. I did mention earlier in the video how he's basically Super Saiyan 3. Well, now he's basically Super Saiyan Blue. Eidolon 1 allows him to increase the stackable Righteous Heart count by 4 and grants 1 extra stack of Righteous Heart for each hit during an attack, which now allows you to be able to get more damage increases with Righteous Heart. This is really good. So for Eidolon 2, this is the big one. It allows him to get another stack from using his ultimate, and also advances his turn forward by 100% when he uses ultimate, which means now he'll be able to get off a free 3 enhanced basic attack immediately after using his ultimate. The enemy is honestly not going to live this one. As for E4, it allows the buff to last until the next following turn, which means now his crit damage buffs last for even longer. E6 though is kind of insane. After any ally uses their ultimate, the imaginary res penetration of Dan Heng IL's next, I said I wouldn't say this word again in the video, but the leap attack, where basically he has 3 enhancements, which means you can have a total of 60% imaginary penetration with his next 3 stack attack, which ideally if you do get E6, that means you'll want to ultimate with your characters as well relatively around the same time so you could take advantage of the 60%. But this reminds me of another character who has the quantum penetration. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But to sum up, getting copies of him makes him incredibly strong. But do I recommend them? Yes, if you love Daniel, but realistically, I'd stop at E2, since this will allow rotations to be incredibly smooth and allows him to have so much damage potential. Of course, beyond E2 is even better, but I would recommend stopping at E2 if you do plan to pull for copies, unless of course he is your favorite character. Now for my personal thoughts on him, he is so freaking strong, and honestly, he deserves it. This man has been through the most from what we've seen currently and has been hinted at so far. Do I recommend pulling him, and is he worth it? I'd go with 100% yes. I feel like he's a character who will be incredibly strong for a very long time based on what he does. And also, his design is easily a 10 out of 10 to me. I'm sure it's a 10 out of 10 for a lot of you as well. He just looks so freaking cool. That'll be all for my guide on IL. Also, I apologize for all the Dragon Ball references. I honestly think I need to rewatch the show in my free time. But what is your favorite anime? Let me know in the comments down below. If you guys have any questions, feel free to join my Discord. It's welcome for anybody to discuss Honkai Star Rail, memes, much more, even off-topic games as well. And leave any questions you may have below as well. Let me know if you're going to pull for IL and what you guys think about him. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to see more content from me. Leave a like to support the video, and lastly, I hope you all have a nice one. Peace.